Hey, what's going on, gentlemen? Today I want to talk to you about something that's going on all over the place, all over the United States, all over the world, and that's protesting. And how do we do that? Is that something we should take part in as men? And how can we do that? How should we do that? How should we lead by example in that situation? So let's get at it. Okay, so protesting. I mean, it's happening everywhere. Um, But I think one of the biggest questions is, as men, we should be doing upstanding, righteous things continually. So I guess one of the first questions would be: is this something that is lawful for us to do, or is it unlawful? And even with that, is there times that we should act unlawfully for the greater good? So let's look at something here now. So this is the First Amendment. It says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free speech or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So really kind of what we're covering today is freedom of speech and peacefully for people to peacefully assemble. Now, protesting is peacefully assembling in your neighborhood, maybe even going somewhere else, and it's to petition the government for a regress of grievances. So, what are the issues that we have with the government? And that's one thing I think that's pretty unique to America is our ability to go before our legislators, our lawmakers, our city officials, our elected officials, and say, hey, these are the issues that I have with what is going on. And, you know, this is what I would like to see done about it. This is how I feel things should happen or be done. Now, just because I feel one way or another, one doesn't mean that it's right, and two doesn't mean that really change will happen. But I think that as men, we need to have a solid foundation in what we believe. I think we also need to always be open to, you know, new ideas and things changing and stuff like that. But I hear a lot of times of, hey, we just need to change because change is good. Well, sometimes change is good and sometimes change is 100% definitely needed. But there's times I think that, you know, how things have been for generations is just fine and good and better. That we don't need to change just for change's sake. That we need to look at things as men, as leaders in our community, and work with other leaders in the community. Whether and this when I say leaders of the community, it could be male or female or whatever. But since this is Operation Manhood, we're talking specifically to and about men and things like that. So having conversations with people. One of the things that I've taken part recent in the last couple months in tons and tons of protests, everything from Black Lives Matter protests to open the state protests. So living here in Idaho, there's a lot of people that are like, hey, we need to open these businesses back up. The government shouldn't be shutting businesses down and things like that. And it's been super interesting to see how the news media, the government, how a lot of people will twist narratives for kind of all sides, for and against all these issues, and being involved and at these situations. It's interesting to see things happen and how the news media portrays it, how they choose to report it. One thing I saw very interesting was that with the Open Idaho stuff, the governor called it disgusting and despicable that people were out and about doing that. But then just 2 weeks later, there were protests and marches on the Capitol and stuff like that here in Idaho for George Floyd, Black Lives Matters, and nothing was said about any of that. And I understand that both of those situations are different, but I think our ability to peacefully assemble to petition the government for a regress of grievances. So whether that's police brutality, or that you feel that whatever, businesses being closed, that, hey, that businesses should be allowed to be open, and maybe giving them guidance on what to do resulting in this COVID and all that. But that's I think conversations that we should and can have. But I find it interesting that one side, or not even one side, that one group is demeaned and the other isn't. And not saying that one should or shouldn't be. I think both, as long as they are peacefully assembling, that it doesn't matter whether I agree with them or disagree with them. That as Americans, we have that right given to us in the Bill of Rights by the First Amendment. And there's other things within the First Amendment, but kind of this is all on, peacefully protest, peacefully assemble, and stuff like that. One thing I wanted to kind of show you guys is this. This is examples of stuff that this isn't peacefully protesting. This is rioting. This is wrong. Just destroying, property. This here is Target. Like, how is this, going for your cause? How is this, doing anything for the memory of George Floyd, or doing anything for those people that have been oppressed, or anything of that situation? Like, you're just tearing apart your community. You're actually digging in. I think you're the opposite side, that whoever's whatever group or organization you're fighting, that you're kind of emboldening them to almost fight against you. And I don't think that's something, like, I understand that, as men and as people, as citizens of the United States, we can become extremely frustrated. And one thing with protesting that I found, and, bringing our issues up to the government, to government officials, is that it takes time, and things don't get changed overnight. And some of this stuff people have been working on for years to try to get fixed, and have those situations, looked into and stuff like that. And so it's, it takes time. It's not just like with anything that we're going to do as men. It To do the right thing, one, isn't always easy. It's isn't always fun. It's going to take hard work, and it's going to take dedication. You're going to have to be able to stick with it, because there's going to be people that are fighting you, whether it's on, opening back up the state, or whatever the thing is, that you have a regress of grievances with the government, or even with anybody. That it takes time. It's not easy. Standing up for what you believe in isn't always easy, because you will be demeaned. You will be made out to be the bad guy. And, maybe we do need to look continually at our positions, and being able to defend them and say, hey, is the position that I have correct or right? And maybe there's times where our position isn't right, that we have more information or anything like that. And we can, come forward, own that as men, and say, hey, my thinking in this was wrong. Now I see things this way. And that's totally fine and totally good. We should have an open mind, but that doesn't mean that we need to change for change's sake, just because somebody tells you to, just because it's popular at the time. There's been many situations in my own life that the easy road would have just been to give in and say, hey, I'll just, whatever you tell me to think or do is what I'll do. But my convictions were telling me, no, I need to go this route. I need to take my family this route. I need to live my life this way. And it's not always going to be popular, but I think that you need to be steadfast in who you are. And one of the biggest ways to be able to do that is to have true beliefs that are your own, not somebody else's. That if you hear something, you're like, hey, I think that's a good idea, maybe research a little bit, make sure that you have the information needed to formulate a true opinion on it. And, look at both sides, understand both sides. that if you just look at one side, you're like, oh well, this is my side, and I refuse to look at the other side. Well, why is that? Are you afraid of what the other side has, and that maybe you are wrong? And I think, and even have conversations with people. I know, like one of the Black Lives Matter protests that I was at, it was real interesting to see kind of even within the group the different types of people, those that were attempting to instigate issues with people, and then those that would come in and said, hey, there are issues that need to be fixed, but we need to come together, no matter skin color or anything like that. And we don't need to have this division. We don't need to create division. We don't need to create issues in the streets. We don't need to be tagging or destroying buildings or fighting or anything like that. That let's sit down and have conversations as adults, as men, as women. And like it seemed like there was a lot of kids kind of involved, especially with the Black Lives Matter stuff. And it seemed like a lot of the people that were kind of trying to instigate stuff were definitely younger. Could definitely tell that, hey, they're just out having fun. They're laughing and giggling in between, trying to start fights with people or trying to tag stuff or um, and so it's people are going to try to hijack your message. People are going to try to demean your message, to try to twist it and stuff like that. And so you just have to stay steadfast. And part of that, I think, is communicating well, your argument or your side of things, and realizing that as men, we should stand up for our rights. We should stand up and protect ourselves and those around us. But that doesn't mean that we should be using violence to force our opinion on somebody else. Because one of the great things within this country is we have freedom of speech. We're allowed to say what we want. But part of that comes that in order for me to have the freedom to say what I want, other people that I maybe vehemently disagree with have to be able to say what they believe. And even though I may 100% totally disagree with where they're coming from or what they have to say, in order for me to have my rights, they have to have their rights. And that's a good thing, to be able to have that discourse and have those conversations with people. And I think that's something that we need to continually be doing in all of our relationships. I mean, communication is key. To just sit in our camps and say, hey, this is how it is and this is how it's going to be, doesn't really get us anywhere. That having these conversations and communicating with people, we may not end up getting anywhere, but I think at the end of the day, to treat each other like humans, to treat other people with the respect that they deserve, just even as a human, and even if they're not showing you respect, to show them respect, no matter what their actions are. You can't control what anybody does, but you can control what your actions are. And so I think my biggest encouragement to all you guys is, one, stand up for what you believe in, know what you believe, and be loving to those around you that agree and disagree. Because you're going to find a ton of people that disagree with you, whether they do that respectfully or not respectfully. You still need to be loving to them, be kind to them. Just because somebody disagrees with you doesn't mean you go out and fight them or whatever, or try to fight them or try to demean them or anything like that. I mean, we're all human beings. I think a lot of us are doing the best we can, and let's have these conversations. And I think when we're able to band together and say, hey, what are these issues? Why are we peacefully protesting? And be able to look forward of, hey, how do we solve these issues? And I think that's another part of peacefully protesting, is like we can go out with our signs and protest and do stuff like that. And I think we should do that respectfully and not, trying to train wreck other people's lives. Don't be walking out in the middle of the freeway, attacking people or doing anything like that. But peacefully protesting, having those conversations, and then kind of snowballing that into having conversations, hopefully, with the leaders that will make these changes. Maybe it takes voting different people in. Maybe it's talking with your legislators and saying, hey, how do we fix this? Take police brutality. I think, for example, one of the biggest and best ways I think to change those things is to get with the people that are training police officers and stuff like that, and say, hey, how are people being trained? Are these people following their training, or are they not following their training? Should we be changing the way people are trained? Because I think we can pass rules and laws and stuff like that, but those are people that have been in like an emergency type situation, where you're all amped up and things are going crazy, and you're in that fight or flight type situation. Your training or lack of training is going to take over and take control. So if we're able to, hey, this is how this type of situation should be handled, and working with the police departments, or take Idaho for example, post academy. So they train all the police officers, detention deputies, probation, parole, stuff like that. All those people are coming through there and being trained by trainers that are like, hey, this is the standard we teach to. So if we're changing and constantly looking at, what is that standard, and how is, this situation handled? You know, do we use chokehold maneuvers? Yes or no? For how long? Do we, positional asphyxia, and that, just, all those different things that are with that. Police brutality of having, where you're amped up, you've been, wrestling or fighting with somebody for whatever reason, having other people be able to step in for you, so you can go and take a breath, so it doesn't go too far, that you're using the minimal amount of force necessary. And I know we're kind of getting into like law enforcement talk and all that kind of stuff, but I think just going to where, like, who is in charge, like my regress of grievances, what is my issue, and who can I speak to formulate that change? And if they're unwilling to listen to me, then I think that's really where protesting comes about, where you get people on your side, you get, you communicate your desire, and change may happen overnight. It may take years, but if it's something you truly believe in, then stay passionate about it. Don't let people dog you for it, and just be strong. Be strong. See it through. Anything that's worth fighting for is worth seeing it through. And that would be my encouragement to you guys. So I appreciate you guys watching this. I know it's been a long video. Like, I don't do videos very often, but we kind of got a different setup here going on, and maybe hearing fireworks going off in the background, people getting ready for July 4th and stuff like that. But hopefully it's starting to push out a ton more videos to you guys. If you've actually made it this far in the video, I don't know, say hi, say what's up. Let me know that you guys actually made it this far. And hopefully if we see each other, high five you, do something like that. So I appreciate you guys, appreciate your time, and we will see you guys later.